Give it to me straight, Doc. What's your prognosis?
You do realize that I'm a proctologist, right?
Well, that works. I mean, I think I have an obstruction in one of my tubes. Can you fix it?
Because we're friends, I'll take a look.
What do you think? Fuel pump?
It could be. I'm not sure. Maybe I could Google it and watch some YouTube videos.
Yeah, I'll go buy some tools and I'll ask my neighbor and see what he thinks.
Is your neighbor a mechanic?
No, he's a plumber, but he knows tubes. There's a tube right there and pipes and things.
What's wrong with you?
Well, two experts are better than one, right?
But we're both not experts.
Says you. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Skeptilab, the Bunk Stops Here. I'm Jim Underdown, your host. Now, normally in Skeptilab, we deep dive into a specific wacky claim, use our experts to debunk that claim. Today, we're going to be pulling back a little bit and talking about the topic of expertise itself. So we're going to talk about how to recognize it, who's an expert, all that sort of thing. And to help us out with that, we're going to our old friend, Al Madrigal, Daily Show correspondent, comedian, actor. Welcome to Skeptilab, Al.
Sure. No, happy to be here. Kind of obligated to be here because I lost at golf. But I'm happy to be here nonetheless. Now, do you want me to keep this lab coat on?
Yeah, you could keep it. I mean, it reminds me to ask you, are you an expert in any particular category? Do you consider yourself?
As I told you before, I am a proctologist. I mean, just non-licensed, and it's more of a hobby.
I don't think we're going to use your proctological services, if that's a word.
I hope not.
So, yeah. So, anyway, well, since this is a gigantic subject, we're going to narrow it down to two subcategories here. A, people who think they're experts, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And two, how to recognize an expert when you actually see one. So that's the way we're going to go down this. Now, in the process of all your travels, have you seen this kind of talking out your ass that you think we're going to do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Assholes are everywhere. And you find you after comedy shows, but on the internet, I mean, it's asshole city. So a lot of people popping up in your feed with medical expertise, some sort of medicinal remedy. You know, what are you going to do for that bloating? All right, you got to drink a bunch of turmeric or whatever is collagen and face oils. And then it's also, you know, your anti-vaxxers, your classic RFK nonsense. But then when it gets to politics, there's just non-experts everywhere.
It never ends.
You know what, Jim? Maybe it would be easier if we looked at some examples. Could we do that?
Yeah, let's do that. Here's the tip of the iceberg.
And I can tell you from showing you one simple photograph that the moon landings are shot with electrical lighting. Here you see the shadows are from an object about 5 feet apart from one another. Here's the astronaut shadow going at 12 o'clock. Here's the shadow of a rock about 5 feet away. It's going at 9 o'clock. I mean, this is all the proof that you need that the moon landings are fake.
It's the deadliest vaccine ever made.
That was a clip of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. speaking in front of the Louisiana House Committee on Health and Welfare.
I see the flat Earth is like this, where we live in this double toroid energetic field. All of the wandering stars, all of the luminaries are on these magnetic lines spinning around above us. The center of the flat Earth is the Rupus Nigra, or the Black Rock. Black Rock center.
Okay, first category, people who think they know more than they do about a certain...
Whoa! Before we even get into that, why should people trust you? What qualifies you as an expert?
Yeah, okay, excellent question. In fact, you're not the first to ask this question. Take a look at that.
What is that, mail? Is it people asking about your expertise?
No, this is actually, well, these are mostly bills. For instance, you know, your predecessors have made a lot of outlandish claims for their contract writers. For instance, Matt Walsh, limo service to the gig, Andy Richter, Manny Petty, and waxing service, Jim O'Hare, Dom Perignon for lunch. Come on.
That's ridiculous.
It is. It's out of control.
I mean, it's ridiculous that you guys aren't even feeding me. I gotta fire my manager. But clearly those guys, those comedians, are not experts.
No, they weren't our experts. We got real experts. We got a physicist for telekinesis. We got a geologist for our dowsing episode. We got a famous mentalist for telepathy. Those are the people that we tap into.
The zodiacal constellations, the astrological signs as we think of them now, those were invented thousands of years ago, and they were interpreted by people thousands of years ago, and things have changed.
We can't know everything. Even magicians can be fooled. Penn and Teller's TV show, Fool Us, that is a TV show where the whole premise is amateur magicians, other professional magicians, fooling two of the greatest magic minds in the entire universe. And people still do it time and time again.
My name is John Suarez. I'm a retired psychiatrist. I was on the faculty of UCLA as a professor and also the founder and director of the section on law and psychiatry.
If you talk to dowsers and water witchers, they pretend that water operates like mineral veins beneath the ground in narrow little strips. In reality, if you're almost anywhere in the world or you're in a broad valley with lots of loose sediment or sedimentary rock beneath your feet, water is beneath you everywhere.
Polls made of the public typically show that, a large majority, 80% of the public believes that the aliens are out there. And maybe half that number believe that they're visiting Earth and the US government is keeping that under wraps. I disagree with the latter, although I agree with the former.
There's a few levels, actually, of death. We could talk about the legal definition, which does vary from state to state. But essentially, medically, we recognize that someone is dead when either their heart stops, they're not breathing, or when there's no evidence of any brain function. That's technically brain death, which is legally dead.
That sounds legit, but here's the big question. Do you consider yourself an expert?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of experience. For 25 years, I've probably tested more paranormal claimants than anyone in the world. But I'm not afraid to go bring in the big guns when we're talking about something that I don't know about. I get advice from the best.
But Jim, how do we identify experts? Are there rules? I mean, are there specific ways to evaluate expertise?
There are some ways. There's a guy named Tom Nichols who wrote a book called The Death of Expertise. And he gave a good quote about how to do this. He said, "True expertise, the kind of knowledge on which others rely, is an intangible but recognizable combination of education, talent, experience, and peer affirmation."
That sounds like a good roadmap to follow.
It is. It's a good, that's what we're going to use here today. Our experts have all of that. And we're going to take a look at some people who you should not trust under any circumstances.
All right, let's take a look.
I'm Dr. Stella Emanuel. I'm a primary care physician in Houston, Texas.
This Houston woman now in national news thanks to COVID-19 claims like this.
There is a cure for COVID. It's called hydroxychloroquine. I know people want to talk about masks. Hello? You don't need masks.
So, any red flags there?
Yeah, I mean, she is a doctor, but it looks like she failed the peer review test.
Yeah, this is an example of people who have high credentials or education who still get things wrong or can be crackpots.
Doctors told us to mask up and that hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. Right?
That's right.
Didn't Nikola Tesla think he was hearing alien messages, right? Genius, but it was a little kooky.
Great example. Another example is Linus Pauling, a dual Nobel Prize winner, chemistry and peace. started telling people to megadose vitamin C to prevent common colds and to treat cancer. The Mayo Clinic does further studies and other people look into this. Both proved wrong, but that's peer review in action. They looked at it and shot it down.
People still advised to megadose vitamin C.
Yeah, well, some of these bad ideas stick pretty hard and are hard to get rid of, which, isn't all bad, keeps me employed.
We're going to need to consult an expert.
So there's this other set of people who think they are experts and have little or no education or training.
I got it.
These are the people who think they've discovered some great truth out there that all the world's experts have somehow missed.
You're talking about your flat earthers, your moon hoaxers, your 9/11 truthers.
Yes, the chemtrail people, the Illuminati people.
The lizard people, Holocaust denier folks.
Yeah, this is a big list of people. But there was one thing that went viral that caught our eye a little bit, and it pitted two well-known names against each other, Terrence Howard and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
You're talking about Terrence Howard, the actor.
Yeah, Terrence Howard, the actor. He was on Joe Rogan, and he made a bunch of wacky claims, but one caught our eye in particular. He said 1 × 1 = 2.
1 × 1 = 2. That's...
No, that's wrong.
That's wrong?
Yeah, it's absolutely wrong.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, he sends this 36-page treatise to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He took all this time to point out all the errors in his logic and his thinking, and it was done with great care and compassion.
That's very nice of him, because a lot of people are just saying, hey, that guy's a fucking crazy person.
Yeah.
But not Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No, take
He's
a look.
actually pretty nice about it.
Yeah, he was very nice. Take a look at how he handled it.
Let me make it clear that I'm delighted when I see people with active minds trying to tackle the great unknowns in the universe. It's a beautiful thing that people want to participate on this frontier. What can happen is, if you're a fan of a subject, let's say, a hobbyist, let's call it, it's possible to know enough about that subject to think you're right, but not enough about that subject to know that you're wrong. And so there's this sort of valley in there, a valley of false confidence. This has been studied by others, and it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
What's great about Neil deGrasse Tyson is that he could have been a lot meaner than he actually was.
Oh, yeah.
That was nice of him.
Yeah, he could have hammered him. He took the high road. And bear in mind that to become an astrophysicist like Neil, your math skills have to be a little better than the average actor, if you know what I mean. No offense. An astrophysicist needs a minimum of 8 or 9 years education. Neil went beyond and did 15.
8 or 9 years of education? That's not a lot. Are
No.
you talking about from kindergarten? I did that
No.
before 8th grade, bro.
After high school, 8 or 9 years after.
Oh.
Changes things.
Yeah. But what about doctors and climate scientists?
Yeah, like a climate scientist, minimum of 8 years of higher education. Doctors, you're talking about 11 years after high school. These people know what they're doing. They're very smart. Let's look at a clip and see how this whole saga between the astrophysicist and the actor evolved.
It opens with a quote from Terrence. It can never occur that the square root of a given number, when added to itself, is greater than the initial number squared, for that would expose a loose thread within the fabric of our understanding, a loose thread capable of unraveling the very ground rules of mathematics. That's a bold statement. So then I just say, this opening thesis is false. There are plenty of examples of this that have escaped your attention. His statement is shown to be false for every number that's less than 1 and greater than 0. For example, the square root of 0.64 is 0.8. 0.8 is bigger than 0.64, and it's a larger number than the original. And 0.64 squared equals 0.4096, a smaller number than the original. to the extent that the next 35 pages depends on your stated thesis. This fact undermines your claims and assumptions and conclusions. It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.
You know, what I'm thinking is that Terrence Howard was lucky to have such an expert available.
Yeah, he was. Too bad he didn't listen to him.
Jim, look at the bright side. This got a lot of views and downloads, right?
No, that's not the bright side. That's a problem. You got these massive media outlets giving a platform to all these crackpots and nuts. You got Truth Social, Facebook, X, all these people with no boundaries about spewing bullshit all over the internet. You got major media outlets continuing lies about election fraud and all that crap. Deniers of climate change. There's no science education anymore, and you got a pathological liar as president. I can't take it anymore.
Jim, settle down. Jeez, take it easy, man. Hey, you're freaking out. Your blood pressure is 180 over 100.
Wait a minute, don't you need a sphygmomanometer for that blood pressure?
Not if you're an actor, okay? People don't know what I'm doing.
No.
Okay, just channel your inner Neil.
All right.
Close your eyes, relax. Now, you're gonna feel some hands on your testicles, okay? What?
Okay, I feel better now. Thank you, doctor.
Of course. You might want to get a towel.
Okay, where were we? True expertise is hard to earn, and you might be too ignorant to even understand how ignorant you are.
Me?
No, not you, but just anybody, the average person, how ignorant they are.
I was gonna say, because I just fucking rubbed your balls and fucking.
So our last two examples here are of RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, the two poster children of using high office and high profile to spew all this dangerous BS. People know them and they have all this power. They've become the biggest enemy of truth in America today.
The transgender thing is incredible. Think of it. Your kid goes to school and comes home a few days later with an operation. If Jesus came down and was the vote counter, I would win California, okay? And I don't know if you heard the latest statistic that of the jobs that these people created, which is very little, every single job was taken, about 107%, was taken by illegal immigrants. And you know, you can talk about windmills. They litter our country. They're littered all over our country, like dropping paper, like dropping garbage in a field. And that's what happens to them, because in a period of time, they turn to garbage. Most expensive energy ever. They're dangerous. You see what's happening up in the Massachusetts area with the whales, where they had 2 whales wash ashore in, I think, a 17-year period. And now they had 14 this season. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously.
The problem is that vaccines are the only medicine or medical product that is exempt from pre-licensing safety testing. So the only vaccine that was ever safety tested in a clinical trial against a placebo was the COVID vaccine. None of the others have any kind of long-term testing or even any testing. The Gardasil had a very, very small placebo group. None of the others were ever tested against placebo, so we have no idea what the risk profile for these products are.
Our friend we mentioned earlier, Tom Nichols, wrote a book called The Death of Expertise. I spoke to Tom about how to recognize expertise when you see it. Our conversation was pretty wide-ranging and in-depth, so we'll put the entire interview up in another video so you can check that out later. But here's a bit of what Tom had to say. Tom, thanks for being on Skeptilab. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, you wrote this book a little while ago. What made you write the book in the first place, The Death of Expertise?
Well, the thing that initially drove the first thing I ever wrote about this was back around 2013, 2014, was my sense, not that people were doubtful of experts, but that because people are always doubtful of experts. Everybody's uncomfortable with, pointy-headed professors and people in white jackets. And but what struck me was that people were now saying that they were smarter than experts, that I don't need to ask my doctor things. I've done my own research. I know as much about heart disease as my doctor does, that kind of thing. It happened with me where someone, I'd spent the first part of my career as a Russia expert, and someone said to me, someone who disagreed with me about something, a layperson who had no background, and said, let me explain Russia to you. And I said, no, we're not doing that. And so I got curious, like what, and I found that the more people I talked to, by the way, even outside of professions, in the trades, I was talking to people like plumbers and electricians, and they were like, yeah, people do this to me all the time. They kind of hover over my shoulder, while I'm putting in wiring, and they say, so what are you putting in there? Are you an electrician? No. Why are you asking me this? And so I got curious about this. What would cause this in a society as technologically advanced as ours, that people would just develop this kind of weird habit of contradicting experts? And that's when I came up with a lot of the explanations that you see in the book about narcissism and education and journalism and the influence of the internet and a lot of other things. But I think at the root of it all, it's still, I think I've become more convinced than ever that it's really about a kind of social epidemic of narcissism.
The book originally came out in 2017. You said there were subsequent editions. What's changed in the subsequent editions?
That things have gotten worse. When I wrote the first edition, I was actually kind of optimistic. I said, look, this is a bad thing. It'll pass, as it always does. These are kind of cycles that American culture goes through. And ironically, I said, look, if there's a war or an economic downturn or a pandemic, people tend to turn back toward experts the way they did after World War II, the way they did when, experts set up NATO and the Bretton Woods Agreement, the way they did, after polio and measles and all these other things. And I the words an expert hates to say, I was wrong. I was wrong. Now I was wrong, I think, and I had to think about this more in the subsequent edition of the book, because a pandemic is not like a normal health crisis. It's not like an outbreak of a particular syndrome or cluster of cancer cases or something. Pandemics really do make us paranoid. They make us withdraw. All strangers become our enemy. We socially distance. We close our doors. We put on masks. And so I guess I underestimated the degree to which a pandemic would really fit well with the pre-existing paranoia in America.
And that's just a little bit of our full discussion. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you want to dive deeper into that interview. And we'll drop a link of that video below. Okay, let's do something about this. Let's use his 4 qualities we talked about to ask some questions about whether someone is
What
an
are the
expert.
questions we should be asking?
I'll tell you right now. Question number 1. Does the person have a degree or a higher degree from a reputable university in that specified field?
And not one of those diploma mill bullshit university of, Rancho Cucamonga.
Right.
Rancho Cucamonga?
Yeah, Cucamonga, no. You can't be just able to buy the diploma online. By the way, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., not a doctor, he's a lawyer, and his undergrad majors were American history and literature.
Have all of the other health secretaries prior to him been doctors?
Surprisingly not, but they have not been at odds with the medical profession. That's the difference.
There's a difference.
Okay, 2. Does the person have real-world experience? Right? I mean, you want your surgeons and your airline pilots to have lots of hours under their belts.
Sure. And your bus drivers and your barbers and your dentists and anyone that's doing anything on your body. I feel like you want driving a car, you're an Uber driver. You don't want a 16-year-old.
No, I want the old guy.
I don't know if you want the old guy either, but
well, all right, you're right.
Something in between.
All right, number 3. Does the person have talent in their chosen field? Like, do they have a natural ability? Does it come easy? Do they have an aptitude for it?
It's like comedy comes to me naturally. That testicle thing I did, I riffed it.
Hilarious.
Right?
Exactly.
Made the cut.
Right. Number 4. What do their peers say about them and their work? Like, are the people in the world who know the most about this topic behind this information that our expert
Yeah,
gives?
in other words, you need to kind of an expert to judge whether or not the so-called expert is bullshitting or not.
Yeah, because most of us are not qualified to judge this highly technical information. You need high-level people to do that.
Makes sense.
And consensus means a lot when you're talking about certain subjects like evolution or climate denial or climate change, that sort of thing. When all the experts in a field are saying the same thing, that means something. Pay attention.
Sure. If all of the experts are saying that RFK Jr. doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, then that might be something you want to pay attention to.
Exactly. And once in a while, you get someone who's highly qualified and has the credential, but they can be bought, or they're liars, or there's some other reason not to trust them. That's what peer review is for. Don't
A
trust
lot of people are on the take, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge. We didn't even talk about cognitive bias. We didn't talk about tribalism. We didn't talk about Dunning-Kruger. None of that stuff. And listen, to paraphrase Thomas Jefferson, the price of truth is eternal vigilance. And that's what I'm asking of you, eternal vigilance.
Eternal vigilance?
Yeah.
Eternal vigilance. I like that. I'll try. I guess that's all we can do, right?
Al, we really appreciate you coming by today. I can't thank you enough. And as a token of our appreciation, we got you something that'll help you get through these difficult times that we're all going through. Alcohol.
This is Dom Perignon.
Yeah. Yep.
Wait a second. This is a
Dom.
taped on.
So anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the next Skeptilab. The Bunk Stops Here.
This is product of City of Industry.
Well, I mean, there's grapes down there.
No, there's not. It's a City of Industry. There's warehouses.
There might be a grape in the warehouse.
This is also 49% alcohol by volume.
Baby. Yeah, it'll get you. Thanks. So, do you think you could prove paranormal ability under scientific test conditions? Take a shot at our $500,000. Go to cfiig.org. And by the way, hit the like button below. Don't forget to subscribe to the CFI YouTube channel for more interesting content.